The Whisper of the Walls. Part 1. On that gloomy, cheerless day of late autumn, when leaden clouds hung over the city like a shroud, I first crossed the threshold of the dilapidated mansion that had been bequeathed to me by my late uncle. The sullen Victorian-era building, blackened by time and sorrow, towered over the surrounding structures like a colossal mausoleum of long-forgotten secrets. I, Thomas Esher, had never been close to Uncle Howard, the eccentric recluse whom the family considered not quite sound of mind. And now, after his sudden demise, I found myself the sole heir to this ominous abode. The massive oak door creaked open with a long, drawn-out sigh, as if a tormented soul had breathed its last. The musty air of the foyer, permeated with the stench of decay and oblivion, enveloped me, seeping into my very lungs. The dim light of my lamp drew out the outlines of dust-covered furniture, tarnished mirrors in heavy frames, and bizarre statuettes whose distorted faces seemed to mock my intrusion into their frozen world. Slowly making my way through the rooms on the ground floor, I noted with growing unease the strange peculiarities in the house's layout. Some chambers were unnaturally small, while in others the walls were angled in unimaginable ways, defying the laws of geometry. It seemed the very reason of the architect had been warped by some unknown force in the creation of this labyrinth. Ascending the creaking stairs whose moans echoed in the empty corridors, I found myself in Uncle Howard's bedroom. The room was a true jungle of bookshelves crammed with ancient leather-bound tomes. On the massive desk, piles of manuscripts covered in illegible scrawls were heaped. Glancing through a few pages, I could discern only scattered words. Barrier. Voices. They Suddenly, my gaze was drawn to a faint line on the wall behind one of the bookcases. My heart raced as I realized I was looking at the outline of a hidden door. What could my uncle have been concealing in this secret cache? With no small effort, I pushed the heavy bookcase aside and discovered a small recess in the wall. Obeying an obscure impulse, I inserted the ancient key from the front door. Oh, if only I had known then the horrors that lay beyond that door. But inexorable fate was already guiding my hand, and the mechanism clicked, opening the way to the unknown. Stepping through the revealed opening, I found myself in a small windowless chamber where the air was thick and heavy, as if charged with electricity before a storm. The walls were covered in strange symbols and diagrams, the floor strewn with candle stubs and yellowed pages. In the center of the room, on a stone pedestal, lay a massive crystal of a dark violet hue, emitting a dull, ominous glow, and then I heard them. At first a barely discernible whisper, gradually swelling into a chorus of voices, sounding not in the room but in the very depths of my mind. "Help us! Free us! We have waited so long." Seized by indescribable terror, I recoiled, dropping the lamp. In the utter darkness, the voices grew louder, merging into a cacophony of pleading and despair. In a panic, I groped for the doorway and burst out of the room, slamming the door behind me. Leaning against the wall, gasping with fear, I tried to make sense of what had happened. Could it have been merely the product of my fevered imagination, or something far more sinister, for which there is no place in our world? Thus began my descent into the abyss of madness and horror, from which, I fear, I am not destined to emerge. For the voices do not cease. They call out to me even as I write these lines, and I know that sooner or later I will have to answer their summons, opening the door that perhaps should have remained sealed forever. End of Part 1.